Forgive, that's a 32.
Good evening, sir. This is Officer Barkley with McLean County Sheriff's Department. Do you know why I pulled you over this evening?
I got no idea, officer.
Okay.
I don't know anything. What?
Okay, well, the reason I pulled you over is because you were swerving back there, and you crossed the double yellow line there on the curb, which is really dangerous. You been drinking this evening?
Just a sip. I mean, that's all. It's just a sip.
Just a sip, huh?
That's
Okay,
Just
all right.
one. I got.
All right, I'm going to have you blow into this breathalyzer. Blow really hard. Give it all you got. Oh my God!
What did I pass?
You shouldn't even be alive. You blew a 666.
Wow, is that a pass? Did I win?
Mother, man.
All right. What is up, everybody? Welcome back. And this will not be another episode of 666 Seconds of Murder. I got more to tell you. This video will be free from those constraints. So if that upsets you, you can go. If you can't bear another few minutes, then you can bow out. All right. So hang on for a true crime white knuckle trip with me. And today I'm wearing a band shirt again, and this time going back to the UK again. Love UK metal and the band Benediction, just such a bad ass band. Classic old school death metal. Now I'm sure some of you following the case of the Idaho 4 have had your own theories. And I've read so many of them in the comments that you leave behind. Now, every now and then, I get to one that sticks with me a little bit, and one that just seems a bit possible that I can share with all of you. Something just hits me with it. Now, I want to be clear that I'm not saying that my lambs to the slaughter theory is out the window. On the contrary, I think it seems even more possible now with the actions of Dylan and Bethany, and even looking at some of these things I'm going to talk about with you. So I definitely think it's still out there and very possible. Now, I'm not, I'm just giving my opinion here. I'm not doing anything beyond natural speculation. No one's guilty of any crimes. That's for the court of law to decide. Now, there is more than one reason for the theory to be simply called bloodless, but the simple is usually the better. And I've been perplexed lately when it comes to the reactions of Hunter and the other 911 callers. It seems staged and rehearsed. We've talked about that. Now, how could none of them have mentioned all the fluids that would have been all over that house? In each room, and the areas that connected those rooms, and out and through the kitchen where they probably left. And as I've mentioned before, it would have been like Charles Manson and his family showed up to come party, and then unfortunately much more. Now, if we're to believe these victims were all attacked with a bladed weapon in their beds, then that's where the scene should have looked like. Just absolutely horrific stuff. Horrific stuff. But then how do you explain, after a very calm discussion with 911, if you really think about it, about a passed out roommate, do things then totally shift gears a bit? Lots of inconsistencies with these stories, because now we're supposed to believe that the coroner, Kathy Mabbitt, now, she's a nurse and a local attorney there in Moscow, Idaho. She arrives at 5:30 p.m., so 5.5 hours later, and she acts very strange in interviews she gives. She does not seem like she's telling the truth. She seems like she's hiding something big, and we just don't know what it is. But she talks about how bloody the scene was, like the Manson stopped by, just like I said. Now, how is it possible for 5.5 hours after the 911 call that the scene was finally visited by the coroner? I mean, she said it was a bad scene. And why didn't those college kids not mention once a gory scene when they were on the phone with the 911 operator? Not even a mention of it. Or the horrible odor. Or they would have had it on them as they walked through this, were they absolutely oblivious? I mean, I'm just not buying it. Now, I read in a comment that someone mentioned in comparison to hunting deer or other similar game, and they said that if all or some of the victims were taken outside, they could have been bled out and brought into the house bloodless, or not every drop, but basically bloodless. Now, how could they do that so fast? Well, if you ask a deer hunter, they'll talk about having to field dress the carcass before dragging it back. That's what the body cavity is exposed, and the organs and all the viscera and everything are removed. It's not pleasant, but it makes the animal much lighter, and most people don't even want that stuff. And that's the kind of thing that causes the majority of the distinct odor. And the animals out there will have a feast. Now, this is in an area of Idaho that is very pro-hunting. And most young men, and probably a lot of young women, know how it's done. And they enjoy it, okay? Remember the pictures of Jack Showalter, big game hunting down there in Africa. Looked very, very comfortable, covered in blood with a K-bar knife, kneeling down next to some carcass of some animal that he had killed. So these guys were all about that stuff. There's absolutely nothing wrong with somebody being into hunting, okay? But if you're looking for a few good men to field dress the victims, they could certainly do it. And maybe, ethically they may not want to do it, but, they could have the ability to do it, all right? And maybe, Kath or the Kaylee and Maddie could have been brought outside, or could have been, dealt with inside, possibly. But, with Maddie's jacket being found down there by the fire hydrant, it leads me to believe that Eric Gower took him right into the massacre. So Xana and Ethan got attacked first. It went on for a while. And then Maddie and Kaylee show up. And then phase 2 comes in and takes over for them. And it was just brutal. Now, Kathy Mabbitt said the wounds were like gouging and much worse than a knife. We've always thought something like a machete or hatchets, axes, something like that, right? Probably a mixture of those things. What if the wounds she was trying to describe were more like the complete disembowelment of the victims? I mean, she was the most likely to not talk about the wounds too much. She's the one talking to the press. They may have told her to keep that quiet. And police often do hold back details, which helps them validate information later. I get it. Okay? I'm just wondering if there's something here. Now, I believe the bodies were brought to the house and staged as the police found them. How they were staged, who knows? I mean, they could have been made to look like they were sleeping, and you wouldn't have known what happened until you turned them over and there's nothing inside of them. I mean, that'd be pretty shocking, seriously. Now, I still believe at least 1 or 2 of the officers on the force were possibly somehow involved in this. It kind of stinks of that. Lots of things bungled in this, this investigation, things that just don't add up. And it's either just sheer incompetence or a little bit of, dirty police officer stuff. And I hope not, because I do tend to defend the police, but not when they do stupid stuff like this. All right. It also would help explain no sirens on the 911 recording, because we don't hear any sirens when they get there. Why would we not hear them? Well, if they already knew that they were gone, then there's certainly no reason to cause a ruckus on a Sunday morning. And there have been recent rumors about Kaylee, really terrible stuff, like what I'm talking about in here, okay? A heart taken from her chest, allegedly. And it's a rumor, I get that. But when I think about it, it makes me sick. I mean, but trust me, I bring this up for a reason, okay? Not just for the shock. I did a simple Google search today for cults or groups that drain the liquid from the bodies. There were all kinds of them. It's messed up. I mean, ones I've never even heard of before. A lot of them in Mexico, but they're real. They are real. And I'm not saying a cult did this. I'm just trying to show you that it's very possible that there are organizations that do weird things like this. This is not just make-believe, okay? You got to think outside that tight little box that you're constrained in. Now, maybe that's the reason for the gag order, or at least part of it, to hide the fact that the bodies were found that way from the public, to help again with the tips and all that. And, you know, we can only hope that someone there in Latah County, Idaho, wants to eventually really tell the truth of what happened. Now, I'm also not saying a cult or group may not have done this. In my research, I stumbled on Santa Muerte. This is very interesting. Also known as Holy Death, and is a folk saint figure in Mexico that resembles a female version of our own Grim Reaper. Very interesting. Now, Santa Muerte is really big with the gangs and the groups that do illegal activities. They do sacrifice and do some of that. And the disembowelments and things with the heart. Yes, they do all that stuff. So as we've seen countless times, religion can be very dangerous if used in the wrong way. And it's terrible when it is. Now, since the beginning, I knew that narcotics had to play a role here. I never suspected anyone at the cartel level to be doing it, but maybe someone in the mid-level part of the organization. You know, who knows who that would be? I have no idea. But if they were from Mexico, I wouldn't put it past them to turn into a ritualistic, killing machine. There are plenty of Odinists in the area that, they've been known to go out and do that kind of thing. We heard about them in the Delphi case. If you open up your mind, there are other options here. And I'm sure that the University of Idaho has been applying a lot of pressure with the potential purchase of the University of Phoenix for almost $800 million. And that's the kind of money that makes people do some crazy things, right? And if you question how much time could this ritual take, then consider the rumor that Ethan and Xana had left the party at Sigma Chi at 9 p.m. We've also heard 1:45. Okay, so the earliest 9, latest 1:45. And then we also heard something about at midnight, Xana talking to her dad about pizza. Who knows? But we just don't know. But what I'm saying is that there's a large amount of time that's potentially unaccounted for. Dylan and Bethany's whereabouts are very vague. I think it said that they were about the town or something. Dylan was all about the town. It's ridiculous. So the attackers could have tortured him by putting those marks on his skin of his legs like we've heard about. It's definitely sick. And you're all here wanting to talk about a quadruple homicide with me. So, we're all part of this kind of thing. So you shouldn't be like, ooh, because this is brutal, but we've done brutal before. All right. And we're all part of this true crime community. When you leave comments and stuff, it goes on. People read it. People are influenced by it. I think that's really cool. Now, the lack of blood at the scene would have made things a lot easier. Less mess to clean up, to hide that a decent amount of college students had walked around to see the freak show. I mean, that would have been a hell of a mess to clean up. But they had to cover the tracks of the roommates and everybody else, or there would have been way too many questions to answer of what were you guys doing wandering around the house. Surprised. Now, if you compare, to the channel, the people who came and looked at the live stream paid to do it. And if you're willing to pay for a membership, then, you get the members only tour, right? So, no, I'm not aware of any channels that did that. I'm just saying it's like they let some people do some things and then another group do much more. And I'm not sure what the line of demarcation is there, but nonetheless, they had different tiers of benefits here that you could enjoy. And I mean, if it were me, I would try to talk myself out of this. But unfortunately, the Greek life and all their backward beliefs, at times sadistic, fraternal way of thinking, I would not put it past them to be behind something like this. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about this one. So drop a comment below. It helps the channel. It helps the videos. And do you like reading dark and creepy stuff? Well, check out PeteAltieri.com. And my writing is available there. You can read some of that, buy before you purchase, or read before you purchase. And we also have Murder Metal Mayhem merch at that store as well. Big thanks to all the members of the Horns Hide Club. You guys are fantastic. I truly appreciate your support, and I appreciate all of you guys that watch these videos. And I hope you like the new intro. We definitely had fun doing that one. Now, you heard the shortened version. You're going to hear the full version if you're in the Horns Hide Club. The full version is about twice as long. It's really funny. The Horns Hide Club will have access to that for a week or two, and then I'll release it to everybody else. And what I'm planning to do is put a new playlist on the page and do all the calls in there separately. So they'll have like a little video to go with each call, even though there's not much video there. But you can at least have them on their own. You can listen to them, or if you want to show somebody, you can run through the whole playlist. It should be funny. I'm going to call the playlist Code 666. So anyway, should be good for the funny stuff. But don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe if you're not already done so, and leave a comment below. And I'll see you next time.